We in the Splatoon community face a gravely important question that will have significant consequences in the community and indeed in the game world of Splatoon itself. Which would make a better friend? A zombie, a skeleton, or a ghost? We have a lot to talk about, so let's get started. I'm going to assume, for the sake of argument, that all of the options are humanoid. Yes, many other things can be reduced to zombies, skeletons, or ghosts, and these are prominently featured in a lot of media. Zombie dogs are honestly probably worse to handle than zombies themselves in basically any video game, and not just because of the human urge to pet the puppy. But we need to control our variables here, so that won't factor into the discussion. On screen, I've created a 2-axis chart comparing two important qualities: stinkiness and quality of hugs. As you can see, the zombie, still maintaining a certain quantity of flesh, will be the most squishy and comfortable in terms of the tactile experience, but it has a considerable trade-off in the stinkiness variable, as all the flesh that's making the hug more comfortable is also actively decomposing, making this by far the stinkiest of all of the friends. The skeleton is considerably lower on both fronts. It did, in all likelihood, emerge from some sort of dank crypt, so it's most likely going to smell like something, but it'll be a lot more tolerable. Whereas the zombie probably couldn't even save its smell with perfume, given that the perfume would have to be so strong and applied so liberally it would make your eyes water. This would be a viable option for someone put off by the skeleton's stinkiness. Its hugs are going to be very bony, but it is still capable of giving them, unlike the ghost. In losing its material form altogether, the ghost scores the best on the stinkiness scale, having no smell whatsoever, but devastatingly, it therefore has no huggability whatsoever. Given its incorporeal form, attempting to hug it, if anything, only emphasizes the tragedy of its state, unable to participate fully in human affairs, doomed to watch on from a superdimensional distance, and therefore even the attempt to give it a hug is somewhat insensitive to its feelings. As friendship often arises out of mutual aid, we will now consider the potential helpfulness of each friend. If you need an extra hand for something, the zombies will probably be able to help, just probably a little worse given that their bodies are decomposing and their synapses probably aren't what they used to be. Do also consider the stinkiness we mentioned earlier, and the fact that the extra hand may not remain as attached to its body as you would like. Skeletons are going to be able to participate in any of the same tasks as zombies, just without the issues related to decomposition, so that's a definite win. But if there's anything that requires verbal communication, that might be a little bit more difficult, as most portrayals of reanimated skeletons render them as mute, given their lack of vocal cords. Ghosts create a unique access to the helpfulness question, because while incorporeal, there is a well-established poltergeist archetype that has been shown to be capable of interacting with the physical world in some very specific ways. This gives them the unique ability to both help you move out of your apartment and travel through a solid wall when needed to deliver messages or take care of business in another room. Just make sure they don't try to carry something while traversing the walls, especially something heavy. You're probably not getting your deposit back if your friend accidentally uses what they were carrying as a battering ram against the drywall. As far as vocal affectations go, ghosts are going to be the least negatively impacted, which, coupled with the ability to travel through solid walls, makes them excellent at carrying messages. Sure, it might be a little off-putting the way they insist on inflecting everything, but at least you can tell what they're trying to say. A zombie is much more likely to just groan, though they will at least maybe add the word brains in there when they're hungry sometimes, which helps you meal plan for the evening at least. Skeletons, being mute, do create a bit of a language barrier, as the two of you would have to study sign language to get a full range of verbal communication, but a lot of progress has been made in the area of nonverbal skeleton communication. Skeletons are silly guys that are always grinning just a little bit and are great at physical comedy. They're also probably the most musically inclined of the three, so they can be great entertainers, similar to a mime or a clown. Great at parties. Just look at these lads. You've gotta love the enthusiasm. One challenge of a zombie friend is that they will at some point need to gorge themselves on human flesh, and that's something I wouldn't know how to ethically source off the top of my head. The skeleton and ghost, on the other hand, are already fully dead, so while it might be awkward or impolite to eat in their presence, given that there's nothing for them to do, there's no concern about sustaining a physical form there. The zombie is, however, probably a bit of a fast track into high society, as they've been so disproportionately popular in movies and TV lately that you're probably only so many degrees of separation away from someone famous if you know a zombie. If you've ever thought to move to Hollywood and make a go of it, a zombie friend could potentially be a great reference or know how to get you one. In a trusting relationship, this shouldn't make too much of a difference, but you will want to consider that, given the ability to turn invisible and phase through solid objects, you're essentially counting on a ghost friend to voluntarily respect your boundaries. You'll know in the back of your mind that they could be eavesdropping on any particular thing you say, and that you'd never know about it. You may also need to establish some boundaries so they're not just haunting your house all the time, especially if you're a more introverted type who needs some alone time every now and then. Skeletons and zombies will be much better held by the conventional dividers, doors, walls, fences, and the relationship can be managed much more similarly to how it is with humans. On the plus side for ghosts, given their occupation of a place between the living and the dead, they may be able to provide you the services of a medium, carrying messages to and from the dead for you. The wealth of knowledge and wisdom in the afterlife could be valuable. You could posthumously publish a genuine play by Shakespeare that Shakespeare hadn't even begun to write when he was alive. You could hear advice on statecraft by the great leaders of the past. You could ask your great-grandma for a recipe to that pie she made that you've never managed to get to taste quite the same way it did when she made it. Lots of useful options there, not to even mention the sentimental value. In summary, there are many considerations to be made here, and I'm sure there will be plenty of cases where individual differences will result in different preferences for companionship. As for myself, I will need to consult the Silly Comp Sunday folks to ensure we're all on the same team, so that may change the decision. That said, I'm probably making the difficult choice of Team Skeleton. I say difficult because it means I will have to be on the same team with all the people whose singular justification for the choice is yelling Team Skull Emoji LOL. I apologize for this behavior in advance. They are my colleagues, but they do not represent me.